Tonight, multiple sources confirmed at 25 Investigates that federal authorities were already looking into the Karen Reed murder case in Canton before the public movement to free her began.
As investigative reporter Ted Daniels shares, it's the latest twist in this incredibly high-profile case.
Most murder cases don't have a basis for federal jurisdiction. The feds do have the power to investigate the investigators. Sources tell me this probe is being run by the U.S. Attorney's Public Corruption Unit in Boston. And we've learned the Norfolk County DA is privately pushing back. April 12th, Karen Reed's lawyers announced a dramatic turn in her murder case. They claim new evidence establishes her innocence in the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Pointing the finger at witnesses in this case. One of the relatives who was inside the party Googled how long to die in cold. It would be the first time the public would hear allegations of a cover-up, but not the U.S. Attorney's Office. 2 days before, on April 10th, a federal grand jury issued subpoenas to people connected to the case, according to a source with direct knowledge of the proceedings. Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, briefly referenced the probe at a hearing for Reed in May.
But Karen Reed should not have to wait for the feds to figure out which heads should roll.
Multiple sources tell 25 Investigates the U.S. Attorney's Office is examining local and state law enforcement's handling of the Reed case. And 2 FBI agents have been questioning people in and around Canton and reviewing documents from the Norfolk DA's office and the Canton Police Department.
They're not looking into the specific murder itself. I think that's the misconception a lot of people get. They're not investigating the murder, they're investigating the investigation of the murder.
Evan Gottlob is a former federal prosecutor who worked public corruption cases in Boston. Sources tell 25 Investigates multiple people identified by police as witnesses in the Reed case have testified before the federal grand jury. Would the U.S. Attorney's Office begin a public corruption investigation on a hunch?
Usually there's a tip from somebody. The federal government could be looking into possible corruption in the police department, possible obstruction of justice in the investigation, those sort of things.
Innuendo is not evidence.
25 Investigates has learned Norfolk DA Michael Morrissey believes he's being targeted. According to 2 sources, Morrissey sent a letter to DOJ headquarters in Washington requesting that the federal probe be transferred out of Massachusetts. In the letter, Morrissey alleges Rachel Rollins, who was the U.S. attorney when the probe began, held a personal grudge against him. Morrissey argues that is a conflict of interest, according to our sources. Rollins resigned on May 19th following 2 scathing government watchdog group reports accusing her of abusing her authority and committing multiple ethical violations. We know Morrissey's letter exists because the DA's office was forced to acknowledge it when they denied our public records request for it. Their written response is the letter contains confidential personal information, privileged attorney work product, and is connected to an ongoing criminal investigation.
Is it possible the feds would get involved in a case because of a grudge?
No, I would hope not. That's not the job. The job is to do justice.
Gottlob says public corruption investigations typically take 2 to 4 years for a resolution. If no criminal activity is found, he says the feds aren't obligated to do or say anything.
You won't hear anything about it. I'm pretty sure anybody in the U.S. Attorney's Office that's looking into it knows how important it is to get this right based on the interest on both sides of this matter.
Sources tell us Morrissey's conflict of interest letter to the DOJ also references a former assistant DA who used to work in his office. In the letter, Morrissey says she is married to a high-ranking federal prosecutor in the public corruption unit. 25 Investigates has petitioned the Secretary of State's office to force the Norfolk DA to turn over the letter. We also tried to reach out to Rachel Rollins, but did not hear back. For 25 Investigates, I'm Ted Daniels.